Good.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Parcel Trousdale County Planning Commission to order. I do not see our secretary. Am I fogging up and can't see him? So, someone's going to have to take minutes. Do we have a volunteer secretary for the night? Now, I'm not adverse to appointing someone. Thank you, Mary. Who's actually who I had in mind. Rhonda put in her time. All right. I'll call the roll. Mr. Foster. Here. Mr. Nallmer. Here. Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Keesley.
Here.
Mr. Swalper.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Harper.
Here. Gets him every time. Every time, no.
Kerr is here. And our state rep, Mary's here. The mayor's here. Sam's here. And Sam, would you like to introduce your new assistant to everyone?
Hello, everybody. This is Miss Rosalie.
Hello.
One of the sweetest people you ever meet. And she is amazing. So we've got a lot done in the office. We have started working through all our folders, digitizing everything, and we're finding a lot of things that was good to know that we had. Everything's working out really well. You got any questions? This is her.
Well,
Put her on the spot, huh? Ms. Rosalie, we're glad to have you.
thank you so much.
It's very nice to have you on the planning staff. I had the honor of having her children in school, and I know they were great parents then. I know she'll do a great job with Sam and in his office. We're very honored to have her working with us. Okay, well, let's just get right to it. Next is the minutes. Since we don't have a secretary, I doubt if we have minutes, do we? Did he send them out?
I put the minutes are in here.
They're in the packet. Okay.
No, we got it.
Email line.
I emailed them. I didn't get the email, but I printed them off.
Well, does anybody have any corrections or additions to add to the minutes? If not, I will accept a motion to accept the minutes. Mr. Nolan makes the motion to approve the minutes of the November meeting. Do I have a second? Mr. Harper seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. It is unanimous. The minutes from the October 9th meeting are accepted. Seeing no old business, we'll move right into our new business. First is preliminary plat approval for Sulphur College Estates located at map 18. Total of 27 lots. Sewer, water, and fire hydrants will be required. At this time, we'd like anybody representing the owners of this land to please come forward.
I do have hard copies if they'd like
Okay.
to have one.
If there's anybody that would like a hard copy of the, please come up and give one, y'all can share some.
One up on the screen too.
Oh, okay. There is one on the screen. Sir, you have the floor.
I'm Richard Dragons, land surveyor out of Sumner, Westmoreland, Tennessee. What we're proposing to do is run 27 lots and run an access road from Sulphur College back to the cul-de-sac, having one access out to Tennessee State Highway 25. Also, there will be no driveways accessing Highway 25. They'll all be internal to the subdivision. There won't be any driveways out on Sulphur College Road, so everything will be internal to the subdivision. I started doing the calculations on the lots, and we turned this into a sketch plat, which it says preliminary plat, but after talking to Mary and the planner, we decided to bring it in as a sketch plat and get some input from the planning commission. But this is what we've got designed, and we're open to look at some things with y'all. I think she had a comment about running the road on into Dr. Kelly's property, or the Kelly Ayers property. We're not opposed to that. We don't lose a lot by doing that. Actually, we would only do one lot deep from where we make that turn down into the cul-de-sac. So we're not opposed to that recommendation from staff. We would lose that bubble and it would just be one lot deep. And I think that would be okay by the codes, by the subdivision regulations, that it wouldn't just be, and not have a turnaround.
Yeah.
This road would just come out of here.
No, it would go straight on into the property.
Straight, yeah.
You can just imagine that road would continue
Just
on.
dead end into that.
For right now, and then if they ever decide to pick up and do a subdivision on Dr. Kelly's property, they can just take the road and go on.
Okay, I see, I understand. Does everybody understand what they're talking about?
Is it a cul-de-sac on that part? I'm not understand.
No.
Is that connected to another road?
What he's
somewhere?
saying, what they're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, just the proposed, where it says proposed road, just come straight, do away with the cul-de-sac and just do away with that lot. You go through lot 13.
Yeah, we would
And
just
just dead end right there at Dr. Kelly's property.
Be a stub out into Dr. Kelly's property, basically.
Which you do that just in case Dr. Kelly ever sold and somebody bought it for a subdivision, then they just expand that road.
Yes, sir.
Question I had is with the creek that runs, it's really more of a drainage thing that runs through there. Are y'all planning on putting a tiling down and covering that, or?
We've talked to the engineer, and again, when we stopped trying to get, we felt like we wanted to come in and get some input. Like I said, we went to sketch plats to the preliminary, so the engineer has looked at it but hasn't done any calculations. But what we were talking about is open box bottom culvert sort of thing that would let the water go on in line with T-deck rules.
Because I'm just looking at the corner lot there, and where the creek runs through the corner, you don't have much room for a house to go there.
That's true. We may rearrange that part just a little bit, straighten just a little bit of that, depending on what.
Talking about lot number 1, David.
Yes, right there at the corner of Sulphur College and 25.
Yeah, lot 2 is a little bit, has a little bit of a problem with it, but I think we can move that just a little bit.
And the other issue you're gonna have is the slope that goes down to that creek as you start coming to the backs, to the southern there. That's something that I was,
Pretty good slope there.
yeah, coming down to that creek. So I didn't know if y'all were planning on covering that creek and building up to be able to have.
No, we're talking about off the road. We've been out there and done the road, man. It's really not as bad of a slope as it looks. No, it's not.
It is, the backside's kind of hard because you're just having to make the judgment based on the trees and the growth there.
Yeah, now, once you get in the trees and get on down there, it does fall. But I was surprised. I was able to bush hog the most of it and with my tractor, so it wasn't a problem.
At the end of the road, where you gonna have a turnaround spot there?
It'd just be a stub. We'll have the spot where the cul-de-sac tees down, we'll have a place for them to turn around right there. Because we'll only be one lot deep, so we'll just put a dead end right there. Well, there'll be 2 dead end signs, one at the beginning and one right there before you go into that stub.
I think, Thomas, what the thinking is that at some point in time, with given Miss Kelly's age, the heirs at that time may want to sell or develop that property, and they could just tie into that road then and give more ingress and egress.
Yeah, eliminate the need for as many entries off Highway 25, so you don't want to put too many points of entry on an arterial. So, if you can make connections through the properties, through the subdivisions, eliminate some of those points of access.
You say you're just gonna be one lot deep.
Yes. Yeah, we actually won't lose a lot. When I seen her comments, I actually started looking a little bit at changing it, and we actually don't lose a lot. And especially if we take people down and let them turn around in the cul-de-sac, which that thing's about 105 feet. I think they were concerned about fire equipment turnaround, which we made it big enough for that. There won't be anybody stuck down there. There'll just be one homeowner on the north and south side of that stub, and that's where it'll dead end. But they'll still be able to go down into the cul-de-sac, turn around and go back out. Or turn on the stub road back out to Highway 25.
It also mentioned something about the size of the lots not being required.
Well, when we were doing that, I was talking to the planner, and we was looking at the book has the R1 in the city and R1 in the county, and I think that's where they come in. I've done rearranged that, and we'll make them meet that's the sketch plat. I will make them meet the 15,000 minimum. That's not a problem.
You're just right across the city limits.
Yeah, but we were looking at both, and then we was talking to the city, the planner, and about that, and it was just a miscommunication on my part. But that's not a problem to fix.
Okay.
They'll all meet the minimum 15,000 square feet.
Other questions?
What about the length of that road, Ms. Frank?
So, yeah, I can go through my comments here. But
That's fine. We're ready to go to Mary, and then we'll go to Sam after. All right, Mary.
Okay. So first, I just want to clarify, I know it's been a while since the sketch plot has probably come in. So the sketch plot is a concept design for design purposes to use to discover all factors which could have an impact on the proposed development and to advise the subdivider at this point of various possibilities before substantial amounts of time and money are invested. So basically, before he gets into the preliminary plat, this is where we're going to find any big issues. The first thing that I have in the staff report there on the arrangement of continuing in dead-end public ways, that's what he's talking about with the potential to adjoin to that nearby property. So if they ever want to develop, that could be something to do instead of that dead end that's there. So if the commission was interested in that, I might advise that continuation now. The subdivision regulations discuss block arrangement. So the regulations state that blocks should have sufficient width to provide for 2 tiers, the lots of appropriate depth. But exceptions can be permitted adjacent to major public ways, railroads, or waterways. So the way this is laid out right now, with this proposed road here, you can see that there's just one tier of lot between that proposed road and State Highway 25. But because that is a major road, it's not necessarily desirable for there to be two tiers of lots there, because you don't want people to have driveways out on Highway 25 there. So this might be an arrangement that the commission would consider, giving a variance for permitting that to be arranged that way.
Because it's just one row of houses.
Because it's just one row of houses, and those row of houses would have access to that proposed road, as opposed to having driveways out on Highway 25. The next thing that might be considered is the block length. So the regulations state that wherever practical, blocks along arterial or collector routes should not be less than 1,000 foot in length. So Highway 25 is an arterial, and Sulphur College Road is noted as a collector in the road plan. And the block lengths here are going to be less than 1,000 foot. So on Highway 25, the length, so basically between the intersection with Sulphur College Road and where this proposed road would meet Highway 25 here, that's only about 834 feet. So that's going to be about 200 short of that preferred 1,000 foot between roads on an arterial. And then even shorter would be this length between the intersection Sulphur College Road and this proposed road here. This length would only be about, it's a little under 200 foot. So that's something that's spaced closer together that might be preferable for a collector. But again, it might be tricky to arrange it a different way, just because this is a property developing on the corner. It just happens to be at the corner of an arterial and a collector. So it's difficult to make an arrangement that's going to give you that 1,000 foot spacing necessarily.
Mary, did anyone look at if moving that stub road to 25, moving it down, would that still cause an issue with?
This one here.
Yeah, with bumping out?
That could be something that is asked for or looked at by the planning commission at this point, right? Before he's put too much effort into it. This is what's come forward as the sketch plat, and he knows about that length, so, this would be a good point to ask, maybe, if they consider
You've
it.
got Crenshaw to the west of that, and Sulphur College to the east, so just kind of splitting that difference would be the best that he could possibly do.
Well, I would think TDOT would, because you're coming down a hill,
Yeah, and you've
you
got.
know, and it gets steeper, so I would think TDOT is gonna look at viewing, what's the safest, from that hill there.
Yeah.
So I would think TDOT would have a big say in where that,
There was two reasons for this. It's sight distance, like you said, that it turns and it's really steep right there on Dr. Kelly's property, which is growed up more so on their property. Sight distance was a problem, and we have an access there now, so we wouldn't be adding an access to Highway 25. So that's the reason we utilize that entrance. They've already given us an entrance there, or give the farm an entrance there, so we would utilize it there.
that kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
so that would be somewhere
This
that the
is
commission would-
this is not gonna be your main.
No, but, well, they will, yeah, I think that anybody going to Gallatin or going going west will go up there and go out to the left. But I think anybody else that's going to the right, they'll go up and turn right. And even during the construction, the paving that you had, we were in there and didn't have real big problems getting out. But if you move it further west, it gets steeper, and like I said, the sight distance is worse.
Right.
So I guess that's where TDOT, give the farm the entrance.
Well, that's been there a long time.
Yes.
You haven't spoken with TDOT yet.
No, we haven't yet. We're get through this
I
process.
understand. That farm, that interest of that land's been there for many decades.
So the next kind of consideration would be, again, this is what we would consider a long block based on what the subdivision regulations says is over 800 foot long, this proposed road. So the regulations state that the planning commission may require the reservation of an easement to the approximate center of the block over 800 foot long to accommodate utilities, drainage facilities, pedestrian traffic, where deemed necessary to provide circulation or access to a school playground, or other community facility. So this proposed road exceeds 800 foot, so this is what we discussed last month when we were asking about mailbox structures and whether there would be sidewalks to get to that. I think on one iteration of the sketch plat, you were showing the mailbox structure about here, but I think the discussion has been that it would probably be out more what Sam has said towards Sulphur College.
Yeah, there's a little dip in the gravel dip in, right there, if you turn on Sulphur College. You can actually see it on its plat, where it's car and a half, pull-off area.
So what lot are you talking about, Sam? What number?
Lot one.
I guess it's lot one, you see, yeah,
Okay.
there you go, right there. So there's a gravel area already existing.
Oh, yeah, where they parked.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, T-Dot never bad about parking everything there in the county and stuff with that.
So my suggestion is somewhere right there, if they expand the pull-in area to, into their road going into the subdivision, is place the mailbox on that side.
Is that part of this property?
It is, yes.
That land is? Okay.
Yeah, so if the commission, you know, were interested in sidewalks to get to that again, or what the layout would be, I just thought that would be something that might be good to bring up and talk about with the surveyor now, at this point. The last item that I have it in the staff report there is the planning commission can require that existing features that would add value to residential development or to the area as a whole, that include trees, water courses, historic spots, other irreplaceable assets, should be preserved in the design of the subdivision. So if there's any kind of natural features that would add value to the development of the area, that would be considered at this design stage. I don't know that I've come across anything that would necessarily be contributing natural feature in my review, but I wanted to bring that up for consideration too as well. There are a couple environmental features that are noted on the plat that could affect development. I think there's a sinkhole, as talked about earlier, the creek that's at the rear, and then a number of grade changes which don't appear to be over 15 to 20%, which would be the marker for significant, but those are some of the environmental features that are there now.
One thing we will do is we will leave a buffer along the creek on both. What we own is about to the center of this. Once it gets past the drainage ditch you was talking about, it becomes a bona fide creek back in the back. So what we would do is leave a buffer, probably about 60-foot buffer along that creek, which would not affect the lots, and then they couldn't do anything in that buffer, and it still look really good. Can't imagine anybody going in there and taking down all those trees. If they're gonna build a house, I'd take down what I had to, and if it was mine, or I think anybody else would do it that mindset. But there's some.
So you're not gonna develop and build the houses yourself?
No.
The
The
owners-
developer, he just come in, Isaiah Terry, but, that's what, I would not see, with the buffer, that's gonna at least protect that much from the top of the bank of the creek, and then I wouldn't think anybody would go down in there and wholesale cut and set the street down. Can't say they wouldn't, but.
That's what I was about to say. You
Can't
never
say they
know
wouldn't,
about.
but I don't think, trees are worth a lot to the developer and.
Oh, I agree. They add a lot to
They do.
a home.
Some people just don't like, cut back. That's true. Each his own.
My only concern is lots 1 and 2, the way you got them drawn with the creek. Because on a hard rain, which we get several a year, it goes rolling down the creek.
Yes.
Because with that rock bottom, there's nowhere for it to go but up. And I'm concerned on how you're gonna place a house on either one of those lots and not have some sort of structural damage from the creek.
Well, if y'all would allow, we will get, the second point, if you would allow. The first point is we will get the engineer and we'll do a drainage flood study on this. And if there is a localized flooding there, of course, it's not in FEMA flood hazard zone, but we would need to look at a finished floor elevation for those and then place them maybe where they need to be. The second thing is, if instead of lot 2 crossing the drainage ditch, if we could get over on lot 3 and just have an additional driveway, they'd have access, but not put another structure that would impede the water in the stream. We could go across the corner of lot 3 if the planning commission would allow, and have a little easement 20, 30-foot easement to have driveway, just for additional access for lot two.
Have an easement on lot 3.
For lot
provide a
2.
driveway to lot 2.
Yeah, just right there in the corner.
There's the road.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be too big of an issue, should it?
Well, you never know, some dude's gonna buy lot 3 and might not like lot 2's owner, and, you know.
If it's-
But it's a legal easement, there's nothing they can do about it, but, you know, you just run into potential issues, somebody wants to pave it, the other don't wanna pay for it, you know, that type of thing.
Well, this would be his separate easement, so lot two would do what, lot two would do what he needed to do. But I think that would solve the problem of having another choke point in to back up water up on, further on lot 1 and 2, just to have the bridge under, or the bridge or storm box under the proposed road, and then having access going into lot 2.
I would assume that you're gonna build a road to the county spec so that at some point in time, Trousdale County Road Department would take the road over.
That's what Mr. Perry wanted to talk to you about, and I let him come up if that's okay.
Sure.
Let him. Is there any more questions about the design, or are y'all satisfied with what we've done?
This preliminary,
It is sketch.
Yes.
it's not even up to preliminary yet.
Okay.
See, is there plans to, I think our regulations have, to the south of these lots, putting up fence up, barriers up, I mean, trees doesn't, any satisfy our requirements, right?
You have to tell by the requirements, yeah, so.
It-
But I think it's more residential behind it, so.
Right, that's more of a residential or
So he wouldn't have
business
to
lot.
buffer between residential and residential.
Yeah.
You can require a fence, but our rules that we just passed state that if it's abutting a commercial property, they have to have a fence.
Right.
So in this case, it's all residential.
But I think what he's saying is, it sounds like there'd be a good amount of buffer at the south end of the property anyway, with the creek there and the trees that are there.
There's quite a bit of climb to get, especially from lot 15 over to 24, this lot here, all the way over to 25. That creek is it's a pretty good barrier there on its own. So, and we leave 60-foot buffer through there, which we can, along from the top of the bank of the creek. It will provide a nice buffer between the properties. There's houses, across the creek, and even when we was bush hogging, you could see them, but there was enough woods between us, when I was down in there doing the topo, that it's a lot of price.
For those of you who may not remember, that's Notch Lane that cuts up through there. Any other questions for Mr. Perry?
Sorry, I was running late tonight, but basically my question is, if it does need to be paved, I've talked to Bill about it some, and is it an issue that it needs to be paved now, or since I'm not gonna build on the lots, can it be the money bonded or something and it be paid later? I feel like I know your position on whether or not it's gonna need to be paved at some point. We had discussed with Bill setting up a homeowners association to maintain it, and maybe just tar and chip or something like that. But my feedback from the commission is that you all are pretty adamant that it be paved.
My opinion is, yes, that it should be.
But Bill may be able to give you some more insight as to, our thought process on why it shouldn't be paved now, because those heavy construction trucks,
Oh, yeah.
it needs, if it's gonna be paved, it needs to be paved after the houses are built,
Well, it's 2 years before the county takes it anyway, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah, but,
Come on up here.
he's actually wanting to do a private road and not build it to county specs, because it'd be about $300,000 just to build the road to county specs, so I told him if he done that, it would have to be, listed as a private road, and it could never be turned over to the county, so.
that would be ideal, but whether you all are accepting in that, I don't know.
Well, the issues with a private road is, we'd never put a school bus on there to pick up all those kids and everything. You know, I mean, what your proposal is to sell the lots off and leave it up to the homeowners association to deal with in perpetuity. You're right, that is ideal for you, but being in the school system, parents like to have somebody, that bus come up there and pick them kids up instead of them walking. We wouldn't pick them up on Highway 25, that's too dangerous a highway. They would have to walk all the way down to Sulphur College to get on the bus.
Right.
Just pointing that out so that everybody knows that here up front. That's how that would go. Which is the same with any private road. Bill, you got anything else?
No, that's just what he was talking to me about, so. But yeah, I told him it'd be close to 300,000 just to build a road to the county guidelines, so. But, then like you said, the issue comes in about the school bus, so.
Well, I'm just
You
looking
got
at
that many
it.
houses in there,
It's a lot of houses for just a private road.
they're definitely gonna wanna run a school bus in there, so.
Well, the parents are.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't blame them.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
And for the safety of the kids.
I'm sorry, Thomas, I
And for
couldn't.
the safety of the kids too.
Right, right.
Like I say, if it stayed private, you couldn't run a school bus on it because it's being listed as a private road. You couldn't really run a school bus on it, so.
And I've talked to Sam a little bit about leaving it gravel for now, getting an estimate and bonding the money, and then whenever the houses are complete, you know, the paving would take place then, in order to, you know, preserve your road the best you can, because there'll be a lot of traffic in and out when they start building.
I think we've had other subdivisions. Is that how they've operated, Bill?
We got a few around it.
That have done that?
Yeah, yeah.
I know Thoroughbred didn't do their final paving for several years after.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know what Lewis has.
And Stan Hall the same way.
I'm sorry.
Stan Hall the same way. Stan Hall, like Bergman, the same way.
Jason Ford's on Hickory Ridge, he did a one layer, and then after the majority of the first phase was done, he came back with his final.
Right.
And he had a bond also to cover.
You gotta do
if
a
something
maintenance
happened.
bond, and construction bond is 10% of the cost of the project, so like on his, it'd be around 30,000 bond would be, and then when he goes off of construction, it goes over to maintenance for the remainder of the time, so roughly about, looking at it, right at 5 years from the start of it to the finish if you roll on through without the land, so it takes about 5 years, because you gotta put the base down, it's gotta set pretty good while, then you put 2 inches of binder on that, and it's gotta go 2 years, and then you gotta put 1.5 inches of topping on top of that, and then it's gotta go another 2 years without any trouble before you turn it over to.
Before you would take it over.
Yeah. You go in there and dig up one little spot on the whole road, you have to dig up one spot, the whole road goes back 2 more years, so if you have trouble, you gotta go back it up 2 more years before you can even be considered to come over to the county, so.
So you'd have 3 years of an unfinished road that you could run construction on to help actually pack that down easily. I think that's the most reasonable.
Yeah, I don't have that's what everybody else has done. I don't have a problem with that. Mr. Perry, do you plan on, are you a builder? Do you plan on building any of the homes
We're
or?
not gonna build,
Because I know those that are building they're selling pretty quick right now.
Right. We're gonna market to somebody to take all the lots at one time
Oh,
and do,
okay.
you know. We've done a couple in Sumner County that way.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Perry? What about Bill? Anybody got a question for Bill? Bill, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, we got a few private roads around the county, and they try their way in the world to get them turned over to the county, but once they're listed as private, it's pretty well impossible, you know, for the county to afford to accept them, because most of it's done so bad a shape, it costs a fortune to get them done, so.
Well, those of us that have sat on the county court, I haven't in the last 3 or 4 years, but in my 20 years there, I've made a lot of people mad.
Oh,
Living
yeah.
on those private roads that expected the county to take it over.
Freeman Lane and Sycamore Lane.
Well, they come in, they say, we pay our taxes, we do all this, and we want you to take it over. But what they don't seem to realize is the reason they got their land cheaper is because there wasn't a paved road there to begin with.
Yeah.
You know.
Private road, yeah.
But they don't,
Joint driveways.
right, they don't tend to see it that way, and
Sycamore down there,
I've gotten many a cussing over that.
yeah.
Well, if you're one of the first ones that building some of these things, you really get out in, because I was one of them that built up there. I mean, I built a home and left before the road even got, I never
Right.
seen a road brick, never seen a scraper up there, never seen anything. Had to beg to get a street sign put up.
Oh, I agree.
Before Bill's time.
It is,
It's tough. You're
it is
first time.
tough. Luckily, here now, as I said earlier, the houses are selling so much quicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the turnover, you know, we're getting to the point where the road's ready, you know, a lot faster. Hopefully that continues.
And there'd be some advantage to that in selling it to one builder that's gonna go in there and build all
Sure.
the houses rather than selling it.
Sure, sure. Okay. Questions for Mr. Perry? Any questions? Anything else?
Not, right off hand,
Okay. All right, well, we'll turn the floor over to Sam then.
I think I've asked very detailed questions. Mary covered everything in regards to the survey. And the only thing I was going to bring up was we need to make a decision on the road, the material that we're doing, and how long, which I'll discuss with Isaiah. I don't have anything further to add other than what we've already went over. I would say that we do need to make a decision sometime, whether it's next meeting or a future meeting, on whether we're even going to entertain the idea anymore of somebody chipping or gravel, or if we're just going to flat out say it has to be paved.
So next step y'all do, you'll be making a road down through there?
No, we'll come back with a preliminary plat, with the engineering plan and everything.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that if we get a positive motion, that if, Mary, that we get the variance for the block length and the couple of things that you mentioned, and maybe that we explore, that we're allowed to explore the access easement off lot 3 on the additional access.
I would say, at this point, you know, the motion that's made is necessarily really just allowing him to proceed with the preliminary plat. So you can ask for it, include anything else, but
Do we want to discuss the block arrangement, block limit at this time, or would that be better suited for preliminary?
I mean, if the commission is interested in allowing that variance now, you could do that, but if you think you'd like to see him come back with a layout that, you know, has the stub out or has a different orientation, you might allow him to proceed with the preliminary and not issue a variance.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I understand Mary's, he's fixing to spend a considerable amount of money on this, and I will go on record that we're gonna do the stub out, we're gonna redesign it to do the stub out as suggested by staff. But I would like to get that variance on the two lot tier block, because of Highway 25, and that we, like I said, that we extend the stub, and that we get that we look at the access easement across 3 and that.
Okay. I don't have a problem with going ahead and discussing that now, do you, Mary?
No, I guess there's not a lot of clear language in the subdivision regulations that'll let you know if it's okay to issue a variance on the sketch plat versus the preliminary and the final. But you could, I guess, make a motion entertaining that, just so he has confirmation before proceeding with the rest of the preliminary and the final plat, so that might be acceptable.
So does everybody understand, all the members of the commission understand the talk about the block arrangement? You know, he's got one, and Mary, you correct me if I'm wrong, but
So,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
basically, how the subdivision regulations state a block should be laid out is a road should go, so that you have 2 tiers of stacked lots. So that half the lots will front on one road and half the lots will front on the other road, and then they'll be, back to back in the middle. But the way that this is laid out, you have these lots that are called double frontage lots. So we zoom in here. So 1 through 7 are double frontage, so they front on both roads. But we wouldn't want, and they front on both roads, but the driveways will come to the proposed road, because you wouldn't want lots 1 through 7 to all have driveways out onto Highway 25 in this case, because that would be a safe situation and would cause a bunch of traffic issues and everything else.
I think we can all agree with that it's much safer for the driveways to come onto the proposed road than it would be to try to turn every one of those
The only
out.
real alternative to that would be to ask them to do some kind of development, with an alley back there or something, to keep them from having driveways that run out that way, which would be trickier.
So the front of the houses will be facing the proposed road.
Correct.
The backyard will be on Highway 25.
I think that would be up to the builder, but
Yes.
is that what you plan?
That's what we plan to do, correct. The house will face the proposed road, and that way, there's no, and I think in this motion too, that none of those lots will access Highway, Tennessee State Highway 25 or Sulphur College Road. I think in this motion, and that way, we'll go back and design it that way, we'll note it on the plat and preliminary and the final. It will be part of the record, and it will go in the homeowner association documents and the restrictions that they can have no driveways on either road. So we will take care of that in those documents.
Somebody mentioned fences. I believe you'll see
Your
a.
backyard.
I believe most people buy
Access
You've
Sulphur
got
College
kids playing on
is
Highway
yours,
25.
right?
Yeah, just that road,
Okay.
yes, of course, but no,
No
private
driveway going to-
No private driveway, yes. And we will move the mail recipient, and there's a lot of things going on with this plat. The only other thing, we agree with Mary that we will move, and the planning staff, that we'll move the mail collection box out to Sulphur College, okay? We may move it a little bit further away from the intersection. I don't want to get too far in that intersection, somebody may be going there, but there's quite a bit of room between the road and that lot 1 where we can get that in there and get access to it safely.
Mr. Foster?
Do we have, with the backyards facing Highway 25, are we gonna have kids playing on Highway 25?
Well,
Are we gonna mandate fences? How are we?
a lot of people that build homes that do that on the main highway, put up privacy fences and stuff on there. That would be up to the homeowner. I don't know that, to me, I would leave that up to the homeowner. I've always been big on parent responsibility, that you can get up there and keep the kids off the.
If I build a house on that road, I will, front of my house facing 25.
Yeah.
I will drive, come in, and I go in the back door, but I will front of the house facing 25.
Well, that's really a developer decision.
Well,
I think actually, David, it's better the way they're talking about it, all facing this other road.
I still won't mind facing 25.
and I agree that as a homeowner, I want it facing 25, but as a planning commission, I don't want that much traffic here in 25.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Kerr, if I'm not mistaken, the houses across the road from this all back up. They all face Sulphur College, and back up, none of them access 25 either.
No, they don't.
So they're exactly the same as what.
They do, they have notch lane comes in there and cul-de-sacs, and they all have driveways coming out there.
Yeah, I'm referring to on the other side of 25, the
You're
north side of
correct,
25.
you're correct, they face Sulphur College.
Right, right, you're right. I thought you was talking about notch lane, I'm sorry.
No, they got their own, yeah.
Other comments? So the question before us right now is, do we want to discuss or continue discussing and make a decision on the, and this has nothing to do which way the house faces or anything, but the block arrangement, which, you know, the way this, I don't really, you know, this isn't like a nice square lot where you come in and grid it off, you know, it's a long lot. I don't see that you could really do it any better than what it's been done. Does anybody else see a?
It's the problem 1 through 7 is over 800 foot of it. Is that the problem?
No, it's the,
Well, so, I mean, the problem is like really kind of all of the lots on the proposed road are technically, well, I guess the other ones are double frontage lots. Yeah, 1 through 7 would be the only that are really double frontage lots, that aren't 2 tiers. So the variance would be for those lots, really. And these ones here.
Because the only other way to do it would be to have a proposed road down, running the southern border of the property, squeeze the two together, and you've got half of them going to 25 and the other half to the proposed road, right? That'd be terrible.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. That'd be a mess.
This seems awful to me.
Yeah, I mean, the only other way to do it would
To
be.
me, this is
put
common
some kind of
sense.
southern road and then do an alley or something to back the other lots would be not something that's a typical development pattern that you'd see in this area.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, so your motion in this case would be allowing him to proceed with the preliminary plat, and as he mentioned, you know, he might want confirmation on this.
With the block arrangement as is on the sketch plan.
Right.
And you will set easement on 3 and 2.
And would we also include in that motion the stub road to 25, that distance being okay, a variance there?
Well, there's the stuff, you're talking about between 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I think TDOT's the one's gonna decide that.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I think they're gonna, I mean, he put it there because that's where
Yeah.
the owners came in to plant corn and,
Tobacco.
right, but,
That could change when TDOT finds out how many houses are going in.
right, right. And I think sideline's gonna have a big, wherever it is, it's immaterial really to what we're discussing.
And excuse my ignorance, but is there any regulations that we have, any ordinances that would say if he didn't have that stub road to 25 and dumped everything on Sulphur College, that would be an issue?
So where that would come in as an issue would be in that length of that cul-de-sac. By doing that, you'd create a cul-de-sac that's, you know, about 1,000 foot long all the way down there, which isn't necessarily permitted.
You're always better off for emergency vehicles and
Yeah.
everything else, having more than one entrance, ingress and egress to a piece of property. Other comments, questions, concerns?
Speaking of that, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
On the, when we bring that, when you bring that road all the way down to the end,
Yes, sir.
is it gonna be, you gonna create sufficient area for, say, a fire truck to turn around there?
At the cul-de-sac, yes.
Okay.
At the cul-de-sac, there will be sufficient room, yes, sir. The stub road, by it being one lot deep, typically, you don't put a turnaround at that, at one lot. But the cul-de-sac is just right there, they go down there, turn around and go back out.
Oh, okay, I was lost, I didn't know you was gonna keep the sub.
We're gonna keep the cul-de-sac,
Yeah,
yes.
we're gonna keep this down
Yeah,
here.
we're just gonna get rid of that bubble and go straight in.
Okay, I follow you now,
No, you're, yeah.
I'm done.
And this is it's actually the same way Thoroughbred is designed. There was a cul-de-sac and then.
Mixing on, yep.
Okay. So, Mary, correct me if I state this wrong. We're looking for a motion to grant a variance for the block arrangement that is shown on this sketch plan. Also, giving permission to have the corner of lots 3 and 2 for an easement there for a driveway to access lot number 2. Any questions? Did I state that right?
Yeah, I would add in the motion that you're granting him approval to proceed with the preliminary plat.
Okay, and then we're granting permission to proceed with the preliminary plat with those assumptions, with those variances, able to work.
I'd like to make that motion, but I'd like to add that it be a county-approved road that he puts on through the subdivision. Instead of doing the private drive.
But you are going to let him bond it, not.
Yes, like we do for all the other subdivisions, yes.
Okay. So I have a motion from Mr. Thomas, which grants the block arrangement, which grants the easement on lots 2 and 3, and which requires at the end of the development a road capable of being taken over by the Trousdale County Road Department. Did I restate your?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Keesley. Discussion. If you have a issue with any part of the motion, now's the time to discuss that. Hearing no discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Perry, hope this clears it up enough for you to head on to the preliminary and get going there.
We certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
You figure that out there. You're welcome.
All right, second item on the agenda is the final plat approval for the Shoulders Subdivision located at map 6. This will be a 3-lot subdivision. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the Shoulders Subdivision?
Here you go, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I have copies here, people will look at it.
Here, let me.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much. I'm not gonna, nothing major.
Well, Mr. Dillon is handing those out. Y'all may remember this gentleman sent an email to us once asking about a gravel private road. And I responded to everyone, I know y'all saw my response, that that's a tough sale as far as I'm concerned. It's been a while, that's been a month ago. Jackie, the floor is yours, buddy.
All right. Well, I represent Mr. Shoulders. He's, I think, out of the country when I last spoke with him, but anyway, currently there's 2 tracts of land there. One that he owns, one that Mr. Gonzalez owns.
Gonzalez, yes.
Who is his lifelong friend, who is currently a resident in Alaska. We did get his permission to move forward with this. And what they're wanting to do is take those 2 lots, divide them into 3. Lot 1 has an existing house on it, and then 2 and 3 is, I think Mr. Shoulders is gonna build on 2, and we're gonna build on 3. It's gonna convey Lot 1 to his son. I have addressed all of the comments or tried to. I think the biggest issue here is that the existing water line turns and goes up Hawkins Branch Road, but there is an existing 20-foot utility easement per private deed restriction and per plat of record that was recorded in plat book 2104. I'll let you go ahead and speak, and I'll try to address the concerns that you have.
Yeah, I guess my main concern, and I'm not trying to figure out, is the easement is here, is there water to these existing lots?
Well,
These lots right now,
it's
is
my,
water
under-
there?
it's my understanding that Ms. Shoulders has talked with Tommy McFarland,
Yeah.
with the utility, and that they'll be able to run and tie into this line. But they just be.
They haven't run it yet.
No, they just be individual service lines.
One from each lot.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so my understanding is, like you said, the 4-inch line ends on Hawkins Branch. It pretty much dead ends right there. All these houses that are down through here have to run towards Hawkins Branch. So they're gonna have to use, if he develops these 2 lots, they're gonna have to use that easement to run the line up. And they're gonna have to bore onto the road to tie in on the other side with a new pad. What I'm understanding from you, after Mary asked her question, is the lines aren't actually there at the moment. There's one line, well, it's technically 2 lines, one for this house and one for the house in the corner.
Yes, I would say so, that's right.
So they have to run 2 more lines.
That's what I was thinking, surely there's a line.
There's a line.
Well, the house on lot 1 surely had water.
It's a service line.
It already does have service line.
Yes.
So there would be 2 additional lines for whatever's built on lots 2 and 3.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to share whatever's over there. They'd have to run their own board and bolt.
Yeah, so I guess that's my main concern, is if Honey Pebble Lane has to, if you have to bore in the road to put a service line in, for the water service.
Well, they would have to go up that easement
Yeah.
and then go under the
And then
road.
more onto the road, and I think he's aware that that's gotta be done.
Okay.
The question is, are you okay with him not having a line in place at the moment? Because the ordinance,
The ordinance says that with public water, a lot can be
Right.
3
3
acres.
acres.
So
Right.
the water service still has to be put in.
It says it should be in place on it.
Well-
There's no specific language
It's
that
not
points to it.
specific.
It's, the only thing is it's basically what the guidance is that we're using on this is in the zoning code. There's a section that says, what the minimum lot size is. And it says with public water, 3 acres, with public water and with,
it says
without
available.
sewer.
It says available.
Right, it says available.
Which is
So-
what I'm questioning to y'all. My interpretation would be, it would be on-site. But it's open-ended. It is available, it's at Hawkins Branch and he has an easement to it. He could go get it, which any developer's gonna get water. So I'm fine with him building, but
What if he decides to dig a well?
if he, that's
He
his
can't
right.
do that.
He can't
Yeah,
have a
but
lot
what
of
we
the
done
size.
created we done wrong by creating a lot there.
There's no point changing it.
Yeah, but if he change it, we done wrong by it.
What's that now, Tom?
But if he, like say, if he decide to dig a well,
He can't dig it away.
according to,
They wouldn't issue
He wouldn't get a permit.
Yeah, he wouldn't get a
The-
permit to
The
build
land's
a
not big enough.
He'd have to keep it the same, or he could merge 2 and 3 together, because one already has water, so.
Jackie, you have to have 5 acres to get 5 acres. I know a lot of rules saying dig a well in.
Oh, see, if it was more than 5 acres, we wouldn't have the big.
Yeah, if it's 5 acres, you wouldn't even have to be acre subdivided.
That's what I
4
thought.
acres, he can subdivide these 5 public water
Mhm.
supply, if
Right.
they were doing work job.
And I think I wish he was here to speak, but I think his position is that water is available. It's available. The public water is available at the Hawkins branch. And my understanding, this is word of mouth, that all these houses that are built this way, some of them have run those service lines as much as 3,000 feet to tie in.
Yeah, my brother did recently, to Bryan Branch.
The Brown
Well, most of the ones further down in Water Spring Place, they go across those farms. Because honeysuckle from that point down for a long ways doesn't have water.
Right. But there's been, and I haven't investigated, but there's been quite a bit of development down through there. I don't know what size lots they are, but.
Is this gonna require rezoning?
No.
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 If y'all approve him to cut it like this, and we're assuming water's available, because it's on Hawkins Ranch and we're taking, it's an open-ended thing, it's how y'all look at it, is it available or is it not? Do you want it on the lot first? Or are y'all going to say it's available because it's on Hawkins Ranch and he has an easement?
If he say, if that 20,
There's no doubt water's available.
if that
He's got his own to do.
I'm looking at interpretation.
I guess what the situation you're
Yes, sir,
trying to
yes,
do,
sir, just
if
23,
you're
yeah,
looking
or
at
it's on, if it's a private deed, when that was the, Duncan Farm and they sold it at auction.
I wouldn't let him go
And these were 5-acre tracts, they reserved a utility easement here, then this lot and this lot was re-subdivided a few years ago, I'm not sure how many years
It's
ago.
always available. You got
And
that
they
money.
provided on that
Maybe,
plat also.
$10,000 for this one, there's $50,000 for that dude.
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me that in the office the other day, they said, can you help us out here at the property and see, what could actually be built? I said, you can build anything you want if you got enough money.
Right.
I said, well, just make it big covenant money, if you got enough money, we'll do it.
Mr. Kurt?
Yes, sir.
In what we're doing here and saying, well, it's available, isn't that the same thing we also just did on the subdivision we just did? Because it doesn't have city water or sewer, except it stops at the city limits, and they're having to have sewer brought down, but it's not been brought down.
Are they gonna
yet.
run
Still-
sewer for that other
They have
Mr. Perry's development?
Yeah, they'll have to, and they'll be
Yeah,
doing,
they're
like, that'll be the
supposed to build a
preliminary
system.
plat phase, when he comes back into the preliminary
They're
plat,
supposed to
they'll have
build
to
a
show
pump
all the
station.
sewer line that they're running and the water lines and all
And
that.
he's got the gravity, I mean, he's, but he'll have to, he's gonna be,
You're gonna
We'll
put
come
one
up with
station.
construction
he'll
documents.
have to have a pump station because he'll be ending into a pressurized
I
line.
think the difference here is, he was requesting a sketch plat approval, which is still a very preliminary.
Well, my point is, it's still saying it has, has to have access to. Is that not the same as what this is, access to?
This is a final plat, so you'll never touch this again, once you make, like, this gets signed off,
You're still gonna have another,
you're still gonna have.
Mr.
That
Perry
you've
was a
got.
sketch, that's gonna go to preliminary and then would come back, so you're gonna have two more opportunities to see.
I understand.
That part I understand. My point is, if we're not gonna make them already have it on property before we approve the final plot,
You are, except for the road that he's gonna bond. The
Well, not
other-
necessarily, they could bond.
Yeah,
utilities
well,
too.
like, or you'll have a bond for that, like this you won't have,
so that's just where I'm going, because I completely agree, it's available. Other people have already done it, other properties along the road tying into that, their Hawkins Branch. So it is available, but it's not on the property. There's no water access on the property.
It's gonna be difficult for me to see somebody investing in a home without any water.
Exactly.
And if they do well, like y'all were asking, it would be
Well,
my
like
job to
Jackie
stop.
said, I didn't know, but they
It'd be
can't
my
do
job
a
to stop
permit.
them.
Right, you're not gonna get, well, or I guess TDEC would get involved there, wouldn't they, go groundwater in a well permit, I don't know, I've never done it.
You can do wells, you just can't do them if you do it this way.
Not, yeah, you couldn't do it on that small acreage though, could you?
Yeah.
The water's on the homeowners, so, I mean, it's up to them, right? It's whatever else is doing it.
Right.
So, what about the sewer?
It'd
The
be
septic-
separate.
It's all septic, it's in the
Lot three,
line.
I don't see it on there.
So you can see, it's hard to see in the notes there, but so it says on lot 2, see note 7. So that, part of that septic area on lot 2 is dedicated for lot 3 to use.
Okay, so we can
And
do that
then-
here, in this county.
The lot 1 is where it gets a little confusing. I'd like to try to clear up some of this labeling if we can.
Well, I went ahead and added,
Okay, you
that it's
did.
lot 1, this survey. That language was taken straight
From that previous
Previous
plot,
plat,
yeah,
that's
which is
correct.
why it got confusing, because the last one was abandoned.
Right.
The gentleman that lives in Alaska, which one's gonna be his?
Three.
Three. Because he may never build. I mean, if he's in
Oh, I think,
Alaska,
no, I think he's, well, I don't know.
he wants a home here and there.
Or he builds it himself for the
I
money.
think he was moving down, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, he could be an investment, he could build it. So,
My concern with 3 would be that he doesn't have his own septic. And he's having to,
Well,
and he's.
it's just like an easement.
We've
Yeah,
got
this is
several,
legal to do that.
we have several subdivisions that are sharing, septic
Yeah,
fields.
sure.
That's where you find out just how good a friend you really are.
That's one of,
Yeah.
because when you go tearing up your neighbor's yard because your septic line is.
Well- Yeah, I know what you're saying, but at least initially, when these are built, they're all, I think Shoulders is a builder, so he's gonna build all of them.
Ricky?
No, mine.
Oh, okay.
Money short.
So, all that will be done now, 20 years from now, when one of them has a problem, but it's still, it's like, it's a legal document.
Right.
So, well, I was gonna say, there's a couple other considerations that I want to bring up for this plot, and I'm just gonna go ahead and bring those up now for discussion. So the regulation states that the regulation requires that lots not direct access exclusively from collector or public ways, where driveway access is necessary for several adjoining lots, the planning commission can require a shared driveway. So Honeysuckle Lane is designated as a collector route, so that if the planning commission wanted, they could, consider requiring that they have a shared driveway for access to these 3 lots to reduce, how many 3 lots, 3 driveways in a row, if that was a consideration the planning commission wanted to look at. And then there's another thing that I do want to bring up, and this has not been mentioned for a while, but there's that conflicting language in the ordinance that requires a fire hydrant be spaced no more than 1,000 foot apart and be within 500 feet of any residential lot. But it also states that you need to have a 6-inch line for that fire hydrant. So, just to clarify, there might not be a fire hydrant within 500 foot of these 3 residential lots, but there's also only a 4-inch water line. Just so we're clear on the fire protection portion of it and that conflicting bit that I think we've talked about before.
I think if the county water department gets to the point where it's able to run, is this Trousdale County water or Cascading Springs?
This is Hartsville.
It's Hartsville. If we get to where we can run 6-inch lines, I'm sure we would install fire hydrants or something, wouldn't we, Mayor?
Yeah, we're trying to install them where we can. Like I said, right now, there's water pressure issues out there. It's the 4-inch line, not 6-inch. Right now, we're in the process of trying to replace a lot of lines we got that are leaking, and the state's wanting you to get your water loss down, so we're in the process of working that. But in the long-term plans, it is to try to replace some of these lines further out in the county.
So y'all have heard, I'm sorry, Mayor, would you finish?
That's,
No,
yep.
I was gonna address her
Okay.
comment.
Go ahead.
It was a very good one. As far as the access goes, and honestly, when I was out there conditioning and doing the field work, I didn't even pay attention to it, but you have a very good point that and I'm speaking for him
But you have-
without his consent, but I don't think he'd have a problem putting some type of 20-25 foot access easement along the front of this, because there's an existing drive here now, and the topography suggests that would be better than, because this is a wall basement out here, and it'd be hard to get driveways in here, so I don't think that would be an issue at all, and I could add that.
Okay, let's do
before
that
we-
then. Let's
Before
do
we
that
get
then.
through all the signatures.
Yeah. And we can include that in motion there if we need to here in a minute.
Shared driveway, I can't vote for it.
Sir?
I can't vote for a shared driveway.
Well,
It's don't pass, but I can't vote.
how you gonna get them through that flood?
I agree, but you know where I am on shared driveways. I
I
can't vote for one.
We just voted on a big one.
There's a road though. There's a road. I ain't voting on a shared driveway. I bet that's some.
No, I know what you mean, it does. Easements and things, they do cause issues.
Just cause issues.
Amongst neighbors.
I do Carol the same way. Don't vote on shared driveways.
But I think in this case, it's the.
I'm saying what he's talking about. See
Well,
exactly.
even, Jackie knows the topography there better than we do, and it lends itself to that, so I think that is probably a common sense change right now to do that. And that way we can go ahead and, put it in our motion, and then it's on them. As I said, nothing like a 3-lot subdivision to test friendship.
Well, this is just me talking. If we go ahead and put an easement, and it's on the record,
Right,
then there's less likelihood to have the trouble.
right.
If we do nothing, here's what's probably gonna happen, is when he builds these, he's gonna build driveways here, and they wouldn't have any legal access by an easement, and then trouble could arise down the road.
Right. Right.
So just because you have an easement doesn't mean it has to be used. True. If a person didn't want to have a shared driveway,
True.
they could spend the money to get through that.
True.
And that would be between them and Bill. I wish Bill had stuck around another minute, but I think that's
But
best.
in this particular case, which I know you guys can't really look at it exactly this way, but in this particular case, at least the way it's been explained to me, this is all staying in the family. Even though Mr. Gall is not a family member, he's a lifelong friend, and
Yeah, that's good.
so.
That's good. If he don't like it, he can stay in Alaska.
I don't, just FYI, just so y'all know, when it comes to my office, I don't listen to or hear when somebody says, this is family property, it's
Right.
family, because in 5 years, something can happen.
That's right.
Right,
And suddenly it's no longer family property.
right.
That's right.
So that's not an excuse. We need to make.
And you're right, because they're a property owner, they need to be listened to just like anyone else.
So we're planning for the next 10 people to live there, not the person that's asking.
Right.
So
You agree that the shared road driveway is
in
best?
this particular case, I don't see it as a problem, as long as it's documented as an actual easement.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we all through? If we all, we'll go to Sam.
Okay.
Sam, anything else from your office on this?
I'm leaving the water line decision up to y'all, because it's a open-ended decision, so.
Okay. Mayor, what do you say? I didn't get you on that other one. I keep.
That's
in
all
the
right.
corner. I don't remember you.
But if y'all think the shared driveway is best, I mean, it's a lot better than 3 roads, I mean, 3 driveways coming off right there on Honeysuckle. Like I said, I don't know what Bill's thought would have been on that. As far as the rest of it, as long as you've addressed the concerns that Mary had and it's the will of the commission, that's fine with me.
Okay.
And I did speak to Tom about and he did indicate any concern
Okay.
to me.
All right, members of the commission, this is final plat approval. So what we are looking for is a motion. Mary, are all your concerns addressed, or are there some other things that Jackie needs to do for you?
Nope, that's, I mean, as long as the motion includes language on the shared driveway, and I would say, just to keep everything clear, a variance on the fire hydrant not being within 500 foot right now.
Okay.
So, that can't come back as an issue right now.
So commissioners, we're looking for a motion to approve on final plat approval, this plat with a shared driveway with lots, with all 3 lots, and a variance on that they don't have a fire hydrant at this time, mainly because of the lack of infrastructure. But we'll just say a variance on the fire hydrant. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Would they? That includes keeping that area there where they put the water line?
Well, that's already in there.
Okay, that's there.
That's in there to begin with. So we don't have to address that. Would anyone like to make a motion? Yes, sir. To do what?
What you said.
I thought that's what you was going to say. So, Mr. Noller makes a motion to grant final plat approval for this 3-lot subdivision, adding the shared driveway and a variance on the fire hydrant. Do I have a second? All right, Ms. Keesley seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
I know.
Okay, let's have a roll
Just being
call.
consistent.
We will have a roll call. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. Mr. Foster? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Keesley?
Yes.
Mr. Swallow?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Mr. Hartsville?
No.
And Kerr votes yes. So it does pass 6-2 with 1 member absent. All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Jay. We need these back. Next on our agenda is report from the chairman. He has nothing to report at this time. Sam, your report?
Let's hurry up and get to this class.
On the building is increasing above average is what's under Sam's thing here. So I guess you're doing a lot of building permits. That's what that means?
I mean, it's been pretty consistent. Right now, it's mostly accessory structures. The building permits have tripled this last month. I don't know what the reasoning behind it, but this past month it's been pretty slow.
Okay.
But I'm super excited about that because I've been able to catch up on a lot of complaints. So,
Okay. I have no closing remarks. Mary, do you have anything? Closing?
I have nothing for closing, other than moving on to the training.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Sam, do you have anything in closing?
No.
Mr. Mayor, do you have anything in closing?
No, sir.
Okay. The only remarks the chair would like to make is that I wholeheartedly wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We need a roll call. Motion to adjourn, second. We are adjourned. Now we will move into our training session.
thank you.
So I had got ready